So mainly outline my talk is that what is that spin bulb GMR, which has been discovered in 1988, and then what kind of experimental and other characters and techniques, objective, exchange bias effect, and we are using iridium manganese, one of that exchange bias layer for the spectral calculus systems, and then some low temperature characterization for the spectral spin bulb. So when we talk about this magnetic sensing, so if you look about this conventional versus the magnetic sensing, so whenever you get a sensor, we sense like in temperature, pressure, strain or light, and then we get some analog output which has been amplified and then it has been going to the microcontroller. In case of this magnetic sensor, which we used to do the direction, presence, then rotation, it all kind of magnetic, which has been giving some magnetic field variations by disturbance, and which will be sensed by the sensor, and which gives certain output, and then signal processing, and it goes there. So now, if you look about the spintronics, in this spintronics, we talked about the electron spin, and in this spin, how this contributing when there is a spin-dependent scattering of the electron in the systems. So if you look about the GMR, as we know very well known, that if you have two magnetic material separated by a pressure layer, like in copper, so depending on the spin alignment, like if it is a both spins are parallel or it is the both spins are anti-parallel. So depending on that polarized spin which are traveling through that, we get a minimum resistance. And when they are in anti-parallel configuration, when both uh, minor and majority spin both get scattered by the two different layers, and we get a higher resistance. So this difference between these two resistance, which is giving you the GMR ratio, and which has been discovered in 1988, and we know all that today all these read heads devices which has been used this spin bulb GMR for reading the information from the read heads. So now uh, what is my talk today? It is basically, we know there is a tri-layer spin bulb system which is tell that magnetic ferromagnetic layer, then special layer, then ferromagnetic layer. But if we look into inside of that things, the GMR structures, we have the substrate, we have then base layer, is the buffer layer, then we have the seed layer. On the top of the seeds layer, we put that antiferromagnetic layer, and then there's antiferromagnetic layer. We have that FM layer, which is called that PL1. We'll tell pin layer and pin layer 1. And when pin layer get oxidized, we oxidize intentionally, then we should tell that there is some kind of oxide layer. And then again, there will be another PL2 layer. And then we have a copper, which is special layer. And then we have the again another cobalt iron magnetic layer. And then we have again the oxidation of this cobalt iron, which is giving the NOL, and then cap layer. So today my topic will be based on that, how these two layers that's defined by the cross layer, which is called a NOL, that is native oxide layer, which is formed by oxidation after deposition of the magnetic layer, or instead of doing the natural oxidation, if we take a layer which is MgO, which is not a magnetic layer rather than a non-magnetic layer, how these two layers, different type, behaves in the spin belt systems, and that is what I'm going to talk about. Now, if we measure the properties of these things as a magnetoresistance function of field, so we'll see there is a small at 0 near there is a small jump, that is because of the free layer transitions, and this related to the transition of the PL1 and PL2. So this is a typical behavior of all the spin bulb systems which we observe. Now we have this low resistance, high and it's again a high resistance when the antiferromagnetic state of that thing. So those antiferromagnetic state, when we wanted to get this high resistance, we need to bias, and that is called an exchange bias, which by AFM layer, and then we have a magnetic layer which is bias that ferromagnetic layer by an AFM layer to get that opposite spin configuration in the system. So when we apply the field, this free layer get rotating, and while the other layer fixed at a particular direction by biasing through the AFM layer. So this is typical the bottom spin bar, and then this is the magnetic hysteresis loop. So this transition in the magnetic measurement shows that free layer transitions, and this transition which are shows in the magnetic measurement which shows that the pin layer transition which is biased by the AFM layer. So this, if we MR transfer curve from this magnetic measurement to magnetoresistance measurement, then we'll see this is the called a minor loop, and in this minor loop, if we expand it, then we'll see a small hysteresis which is called the HC, and the distance between the minor loop to this our pin layer transitions, that will call the exchange bias in the system. So now, in an IRMN, if we take a typical without any, which we call as a CSB, just a simple conventional bottom spin bar, then what we will see that things, we have this copper layer and with the system IRMN, and then we have the cobalt iron, which is get a pin layer, and then we have a pressure layer of this copper, and then we have a free layer is a cobalt iron and the tantalum. So now if you look, if you measure the GMR properties, we get a typical behavior of 6 to 7% of MR change, and exchange bias is of the order of 400 Gauss. And this, if we expand these things, we can see is a very low hysteresis of that minor loop. So this hysteresis is around less than 3 Gauss, and our EB is around 335 Gauss, and MR is around 6%. So what we are thinking is a specular system. Now in this specular system, why we wish to do the specular system? The specular system is nothing but the spin confinement within this transition, because all our spin polarized carrier which will be getting scattered between the free layer to a pin layer. So when you pass the current through that spin valve systems on these things, now if we can confine within these two layers, these are the oxide layers. So these are more as the insulator. So if we can confine, then these electrons can get scattered from this oxide layer and confined within the free layer to the pin layer. So that's why this called as a specular scattering between the free layer of the and the pin layer. So now this specular scattering, we can do it in a two methods. One method is that we take the cobalt iron layer with a higher thickness and then oxidize in presence of the oxygen, and it forms the cobalt iron oxide layer. And then we deposit again that cobalt iron, and then our special layer, and then free layer, and then free layer is again oxidized. Or instead of oxidation, we can do a very thin MgO or magnesium oxide as a specular layer. So we have two methods. Why you have that two methods, that I will come to now. And these two methods, how their RH measurement or MH plots, then XRD, XRR, and then what kind of hypothesis we have done. So now, so in these SSB systems, if we take that, as I told you, yes. So what we have done is this substrate, and it's our base pressure in the chamber is -8, and in this case we have done exposed to pure oxygen for a 40 minutes in load lock chamber, not in air. So we have passed the pure oxygen, and then we have done this thing. And in case of MgO deposition, in the same systems, we have used the RS sputtering, and with a power of 100 watt, and in the pressure of 10 to the minus millibar pressure, and we have done this deposition for the NOL layer. So now we have got it two different systems, as I will be noting like that. It's a NOL SSA, which is called as that for a 10 to the minus 3 millibar, which is called an optimized condition for the specular reflection. And then NOL SSB, which is higher pressure at 1.5 millibar, which is called an overdose. Similarly, MgO, we have done deposited for a 5 second, which have a very ultra thin MgO layer. And then we have done a 8 second, which is called an overdose. So we'll see that a optimized conditions and an overdose conditions was the difference in the feature in MR as well as the MH. So now we have shown you this the curve, which shows that a nano oxide layer, if we form, this is a conventional without any specular, which is called CSB. Now, when I do the specular with a nano oxide layer, which is a nothing but cobalt iron oxide layer, and we can see the enhancement of the MR percentage from 6 to 80, 6 to 10%. Similarly, when you do these things, COSB, and you do the MgO layer, ultra thin layer, we get also the MR percentage increase by 10%, as well as increase in the EV value. Now, if we increase the thickness of this NO layer, as I told you, is the overdose, which is at 1.5 millibar oxygen pressure per 40 minutes, then we can see instead of this transition, it becomes a very say a gradual transition from this with a small reduction in the MR percentage. So why this gradual transitions? In the same thing, when we are done on the MgO also, this is also shows that is sharp reduction as well as the gradual transition in the second layer. Now the questions came this that comparison. If we see that both the cases, now if we look about these things, the hysteresis but in the minor loop, what we observed in the case of MgO system, both percentages are same, but hysteresis in the MH measurement, it is much smaller than in case of NOL. So if we look about that in MgO system, we got a hysteresis which is 0.1 Gauss, which is very low in comparison to that NOL system, which is around 2 Gauss, which is really required for the when we think about any kind of system which is required a low hysteresis, basically when we go for a linear based magnetic sensors. And magnetic measurement also shows clearly that the sharp transition in the free layers as well as in the there is no here things with a large exchange bias with the when we do about the MgO assessment. So we have seen that there is a 20 times reduction in that, which is almost a reversible MgO SSB and also higher exchange bias, more suitable for the sensor application. Now, why this such a low hysteresis when you talk about in case of MgO ultra thin layers? Now, when you do a oxidation in any system, so now any thin films when you do that, it's not in high density, there is a some kind of percolation paths. So when you expose this thin film under oxygen pressure, the oxygen atoms can penetrate these layers because this is not like a bulb which is having some kind of cracks in thin films. So then at the boundary, these films get oxidized. So that's why we can tell that at the surface of the thin film, the density gradient, there will be density gradient that at the surface it will be more oxidized, and as it penetrates to the film, the oxidation gradient oxidation will be less. So we can get the oxide gradient as you go from the top to bottom. But in case of the MgO, if you look about that, since the MgO is an atom, so it cannot penetrate through this path. So it makes a very ultra thin layers, and which gives a further reduction in the roughness. So this is clearly looks in that XRR fringes, which shows that this kissing fringes, which shows that in MgO is having the much more smoother roughness in comparison to the oxide system. And the grain size what we have got it from these things around 6.2, 7.6, and this is 8.3. So no doubt with an oxidation process, the enhancement of this MR percentage, nothing but due to the change in the grain size as well as the roughness. So now, why this origin of this anomalous behavior which you observe in that system when you go to the overdose? That is when I told that at 1.5 millibar pressure of oxygen or 8 seconds of MgO. So both shows typically similar behavior, and why we observe this kind of things. So we have not seen any exciting peak and orientation, but is it the, if there is a increase in the but the feature which shows that some kind of improvement, improvement in the XRR features. So is it that improved in that at is why? So that one we have studied, like the change of the coupling, which is from ferromagnetic to antiferromagnetic, when the PL1 into PL2, that is the higher annual thickness or is there any twisted coupling through NL induced by these oxide components. Now, what we have seen that things, then when we have done a study, only just cobalt iron and copper and cobalt iron and studied their magnetic properties, just a trial here, we have seen that NOL and 0.94 nanometer, this is a typical thickness, as well as for the TNOL. So, and when it is the oxidized system, more oxidized, then it is comes around 1.1 nanometer. So the thickness slightly increases, which corresponds to the change in the antiferromagnetic coupling from 0.13 to 0.25%. So now, and also it is observed there is no iron oxide when we done that X-phase in the system. So it is coming by this antiferromagnetic nature which has originated from the cobalt oxide or the cobalt 2 plus. Now we have hypothetical model we have given that why it is happening. So first of all, that when we oxidize, then as I told you, there is a density gradient. So when you start the oxidation, the surface of the film will get more oxidized. So the cobalt oxide at room temperature is an antiferromagnetic insulator, but it doesn't have any antiferromagnetic properties. But as you go inside more, then as there is a kind of porcel structures it forms, which center shows the ferromagnetic structures and the outside stays the around outside shows this antiferromagnetic insulator, and then at then we get the FM FM layer, that is cobalt iron layer, and this is our AFM layer. So we have divided that PL1 and PL2, and this PL1 is divided in two parts. What is called in region 1, which having a core cell structure, another one which is having the region 2, which is core cell. So when the insulator is very higher in thickness, that time we have observed these are slanted structures. Now these same things, because MgO is a simple insulator, so because of this same MgO insulator structures, we have got that an exponential behavior rather than the polarized nature in NOL. So NOL is having slightly different behavior than that things, and why the MR ratio is reduced. For that, we have studied this temperature between the 10K to 300K range. Now, if we see about that, the different things, if we take this USB, but there is no NL, no antiferromagnetic insulator. So at 300K, usual behavior, and till 200K, the behavior is quite similar to each other. But when we go below 200K, just to 150K, 50K to 10K, as that NOL, which has crossover from an antiferromagnetic insulator, because it's a simple insulator, cobalt oxide, but at 200K, there is a crossover which has shows an antiferromagnetic behavior. So that time, the NOL SSBA will behave totally different types than our MgO, because MgO doesn't have any changes. It doesn't changes from the antiferromagnetic, only the insulating properties which are changes. So now that gives a huge kind of exchange bias hysteresis value, and that hysteresis value which has been reported earlier by some other group, but there are so many explanations they have not given. First of all, why the exponential rise of this exchange bias PIL and HC value, and second is that increase in HCAT value is 3 times at 10K. So those answers were not given by these earlier papers. So we have answered those questions by measuring a magnetic as well as the non-magnetic nano oxide layer. So now what we have found is there. So when it goes to the 10K, so what we found is these things, that we found that these insulator become an antiferromagnetic insulating layer, and this antiferromagnetic insulating layer makes a kind of spin frustration in these regions, and that gives a when we measure for this the overdose samples, we get the first, if we start from this blue color and start from the negative fields, start from 1, when it start at the 2 point, that this free layer which is give a change in the orientation, and then goes 3, where this spin layer is start rotating, and then once the spin layer is start rotating, then comes in the 4. So why it is giving us some kind of tail kind of structures, those phenomena is changes due to the spin disorder within the antiferrometric insulated layer. And the same thing when you start rotating between these six, this is again changes by this spin layer, the pin layer rotation here. But this hump and all these characteristics we have explained in our paper, which has been published in JMMM, that this spin layer also, it's this kind of humps is appeared due to this kind of things in that system. This observation was not there in the system for the MG. So now what we have concluded here is that we have done this some multi-layer stacks and their magnetic properties we have measured. We have studied the scattering effect with it two types. One is called nano oxide layer, another is called the magnetic oxide specular layers. And we have given a hypothetical model to understand why at low temperature this nano oxide layer shows some kind of anomalous behavior. And in case of MgO, what we observed, it's a reversible minor loop and highest exchange base, higher MI ratio, which is very important for these MgO systems. And this MgO system even doesn't have any anomalies. So might be this MgO based spin valve system, even it can be used at the low temperature for a particular measurement. As in, it also has a sense of the reversible phenomena, which can be used, which is in a linear magnetic field sensor for an applications like in a current sensors or other, where in a hard disk it is in a square loop always, but whenever you have to convert into a square loop to a linear magnetic field sensor, it's a biggest challenge. So the people are working in a different type of mechanism to have this square loop to a changeover from the linear magnetic field sensor. Thank you.